No worries. Over to you, Monique, for your final case study.
Hi, yes. So I'm Monique Williams, and this is my Product MBA case study, which I would like to use to demonstrate how, as a product manager, you might implement a new product development process. So, in brief, that means that you will look first at the problem space and only later then jump into the solution space. In terms of what that means more specifically, we can look at objective 1, figuring out what are problems that are worth solving, and then validating that that problem also has a real user out there that wants to use that, or that has this problem and wants to possibly use our product. Then looking at objective 2, defining and validating our offer that we want to be differentiated, before we then look at strategic planning and then ultimately understanding how to build and validate your prototype to then lastly iterate on your solution. As a product manager, you want to reduce risk and uncertainty all along this process while increasing that signal strength that you are moving into the right direction of developing the right product. And just to point out, I will focus on these first 3 objectives here today. So let's jump in with this first objective, validating the problem. So first we need to identify a problem. For my case study, I will be focusing on this following problem statement. We believe that it is difficult for aspiring product managers with narrow work backgrounds, in this case meaning linear or homogeneous career paths, to determine what experience is relevant for a specific product management job application. Right? So if you've always been in the same job, then it's difficult to all of a sudden understand for a completely different job what's relevant here. What are those transferable skills? And it's specifically targeted at aspiring product managers. How do we know that this is worth solving? Because it has a very high acuteness score, right? If you want to change your career path, that's something that you might lose sleep out over. And we can also look at the problem time fit, right? So is the product or is the market ready for this problem? Is that a good timing? So looking at Google Trends, for example, and the topic of product management here in blue, as well as the job title for product managers in red, we can see that over the past 5 years, these are at an all-time high, and that the topic of career counseling actually moves in tandem, more or less, with these search topics. So that indicates that the timing is definitely right for this problem. And again, indicates that this is a problem worth solving. Now, we can jump to our first objective, creating customer problem fit, right? So my hypothesis here that I want to prove is that this problem is in fact real and acute. And the key results that I want to achieve here are to conduct 5 discovery calls with people from that specific niche to identify acute problems. And as I used LinkedIn for my outreach to also validate that this is a valuable acquisition channel. Luckily, I was able to achieve both of these. So I did conduct my 5 discovery calls, and I actually had over 10%, so almost 14% of those people that I contacted that also booked a call through LinkedIn. In addition, I was also able to validate that a lot of people actually not only spend time and effort trying to solve this problem, but also already spend money trying to solve this problem. So that again indicates that this really is a real problem and an acute problem as well. Now, we can look a little bit closer at how I actually went about getting these results and what the actual findings are. So first, I took notes during the discovery calls, which I then analyzed quantitatively and objectively to look for common problems and acute problems, which I then aggregated into frustration or also problem statements, which you can see here on the left. And then I simply flip these over into opportunities, which you can see here on the right. So let's have a look at these findings. So many people said that it is really hard to identify a good fit between your own skills and the job vacancies, but also more specifically between the multitude of different product management roles that there are. They also demonstrated that they are very insecure about actually having what it takes. And that might be linked to the job requirements that are very discouraging, especially because they are super demanding. So I actually talked to one person who had over 20 years of experience in UX design and had founded his own business. And still, he was very unsure if he had what it takes, if he could deliver, could do a good job as a product manager. And he actually had never applied to a single product management job because the requirements just seemed so daunting to him. Other frustrations that I found were that people felt paralyzed by a lack of path into this job and a lack of guidance from somebody who knows what a lateral career switch is like. Another frustration was that candidates just don't know how to land their first interview. And this specifically became very clear that this is the ultimate desired outcome. So people really just said they wanted to be placed into that interview or just put through the process into that interviewing stage, get that chance to be in front of the recruiter to prove what they had to offer. So that is a clear opportunity here. Similar as to providing guidance and a path into the role, make identifying a good fit between your own skills and the job roles and the vacancies easy, and also to help feel secure about and knowing that you have what it takes. All right, so another key learning here was that people seem to not really grasp what product managers do in a day-to-day. So it's hard for them to understand how their own experiences are actually relevant. But overall, we can say that we've clearly identified an acute problem and that we have basically achieved customer problem fit. So that then takes us to, let me just move this, to the next step, right? So we know we have real users out there that have these problems. Now we want to create an offer and then validate that. So to do that, we want to define the offer. Again, we can come back to our insights from our discovery calls to now determine our product vision as well as our product strategy from these insights and package these into one powerful sentence, our minimum viable offer, right, or MVO, which basically is a single statement outlining what value we will deliver to our specific target audience and how we will deliver that value in a unique way. We can then use that MVO to place on a landing page, including a call to action to sign up via email, and thereby creating a conversion funnel for us to track and for users to signal their interest and for us to see that we can actually deliver value. So the MVO that I created reads, we enable aspiring product managers to trailblaze into their first dream PM job by delivering tailor-fitted roles, right? So we're using powerful language, trailblaze. They want to pave that path like a pioneer, figuring your way through that process and getting to that dream job of yours. And the hypothesis here was that I could validate that this delivers value to our target niche. How did I do that? With my key results. So I actually achieved over 5% conversion from outreach to sign up. Actually, I almost had 48%. So that's definitely very high and signals great value.
I think that's the highest ever. Sorry to interrupt.
Really?
So
oh, wow.
Good work. Yeah, out of 200.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great to hear. So then I also did manage to create great differentiation, obviously, using my Blue Ocean strategy canvas. So if we have a look here, This on the left is what I started out with, right? And I started with the idea of offering custom tailoring of job applications. But you can see that this is a quite crowded, so this blue line is my business idea, and you can see that this is a quite crowded market, so it's a red ocean, so to say. And using this framework helped me to actually pivot away from this crowded market to a more blue, less crowded market, where you can see that there's a lot of space here, and helped me identify unique, more competitive factors to focus on with the offer of delivering these tailor-fitted roles. And then last but not least, you can use that product story canvas and your product vision for alignment. Right, so the product vision that I validated reads, trailblaze into your first dream product management job. Right, you can note here that I'm specifically using the word job instead of interview, what users said they wanted to achieve, right? They wanted to be placed through to that interviewing process. But I'm using job specifically because it's more bold, right? And it attracts users through being more aspirational. Right? You can also use this for internal alignment with your stakeholders to really have that team rally around this vision and get your stakeholder buy-in. Another framework to get external and internal alignment is the product story canvas, which uses storytelling, one of our most influential tools for communicating, and helps really focus on the essential information that you want to communicate. So just to give an example, it shows that we can position ourselves as the guide, right? With authority, we have product management and HR experts that can help transform our users from struggling to finding their path and feeling frustrated to feeling more assured and paving their path into that dream role, and thereby helping to avoid those feelings of remorse for not having pursued their dream. All right, so what we did now is we know that we created value with this outreach conversion rate. We know what value we're delivering with this MBO. We know that this is a unique value proposition through using this differentiation, blue ocean strategy canvas. And we also know how to effectively communicate that value to all of our stakeholders. That means that now we can move on to the strategic planning part and creating long-term product success, right? So this is our objective number 3. And the key results here are that we want to define and align around the strategic roadmap as well as the lean canvas. So why strategic roadmap? Well, a common mistake that happens is that you put random, unconnected features on your roadmap that you then try to develop. With the strategic roadmap, however, we want to focus on a set of outcomes that you can see in orange that all have key metrics to ensure that we actually measure and know when we have achieved success. And these outcomes in a sequential way all drive towards our product strategy, right? That opportunity that what we want to deliver. And in this case, that is our opportunity of delivering that tailor-fitted role. In addition, this roadmap shows in yellow possible items, solution ideas that we can use, that we can test out and iterate on to see what creates most value. We can use the effort impact matrix to determine which of these solutions we would like to test out first. And in our case, just to walk through this a little bit, so for our first step, our first outcome, we want users to have an overview of the competencies and the job needs that they have, right? So for example, that we could create through a self-evaluation, right? They could maybe upload their CV and also fill out a questionnaire. They could add evaluation by others, right? By friends and colleagues, adding a 360 feedback, for example. The second outcome then would be to quickly receive job recommendations, right? You can easily do that through automating that matching process. And then moving on to the third outcome, the third step, is for users to know what to do to get that recommended job. So, for example, that would mean understanding why this is a great match. How do your competencies and your skills really apply to this job, right? It could mean offering custom advice, right? This is the kind of question you want to ask in your interview to figure out what it is that's important to you. Or you could book a one-on-one coaching with one of our experts, right? And so we can assure that with these fixed outcomes that we want to achieve, we will definitely drive towards delivering on our product strategy while being agile and flexible with the solution that we use to do that. All right, moving on to the Lean Canvas, which is a framework that helps us map out all the different parts of our business and then strategically go through to identify possible risks that we could face and identify these early on and not years down the line when we have already put in all of our resources and our effort. And so what I would like to point out here is looking at our revenue streams. We're using a freemium model. So that means users get the recommendations for free and then pay per unlocked job advice and coaching, right? So that's our premium service. This also means that we need to make sure that we convert our users into paying customers, which means that that could take a lot of time. So that could mean that money comes in also only after quite a bit of time. So we need to make sure that we don't run out of money and include that in our cost structure, for example. We can also look at our acquisition channels and make sure we try to profit as best as we can from this. So really making sure that we go out and we work on our acquisition, which again could mean higher customer acquisition costs. But if we have a higher number of users coming in at the beginning of the funnel, we might also have a higher number coming in or coming out at the end of that funnel and turning into paying customers. Similarly, we could look at our unfair advantage and our network effects, right? Which in this case would mean that the more jobs we have on our platform, the more likely it is to find that perfect match. And so this could have a huge effect on the customer satisfaction, meaning that referrals as well as retention could have a positive impact or could be impacted positively, right? And that again could mean, well, referrals, it would be easier and less costly than putting in extra money to acquire new customers. All right, so now that we've validated
Sorry,
our
I'm just have to
problem.
time cap you to one minute to go.
Okay. So looking just at validating that prototype, just the first steps here, what you could do is looking at your customer journey map to help you identify your customer's emotional state, to help you identify where your core value lies, right? So here we can clearly see it's at the end of our customer journey. And what we want to do is when we're wireframing, make sure that this is what we're portraying, right? So you can define your core value in one precise sentence and then sketch that as a wireframe. So in my case here, it would be matching aspiring pre-em profiles, you can see here, with the most compatible jobs, right? You see how great of a match this is, and then providing your match explanation, your actionable custom advice, and that expert coaching to confidently apply and land your dream job. So after that, your team can go on to build a prototype to check, for example, are you creating value? Do users want to pay for this product? To then go and test out your prototype and then iterate on your solution based on your findings. So here we have a couple of more principles just to highlight a few. Definitely stick to a specific target niche. That's more valuable than going big right away. Understand your problem and the desired outcome before looking at your solution. Validate an offer. Your MVO can be of more use at the beginning than your MVP. And definitely also look at that strategic roadmap, looking at rigid or being rigid with your outcome, but flexible in your solution. Thanks.
Awesome. Really, really good presentation. Yeah, so I'll very quickly go through just bullet point feedback. If you try and follow along with the slides, if you just go back to the problem one, and then we'll just add some next steps here at the end. Yeah, honestly, I thought top 10, top 20% for sure. Really engaging tone. I thought you were crystal clear throughout, which is hard, actually very hard to do. So, for example, very clear process overview, use simple, clear terms. I love that you talk about, what is a product manager, reducing risk, increasing signal strength. A really nice way to describe it, and important because most people don't understand it. So good to put that at the beginning. I thought your problem was very good. You could have been a bit more concise. It's quite wordy. So I always say, keep it really short and give context around it. So that's why you're explaining it, right? And not just sending somebody the slides. So always try and be more concise. But again, generally, you were very good at that. I think this was the only place to improve upon. Just the wording thing. So I would use the timing rather than time. The emphasis sounds a bit different in English. Small thing. OKR1. Sorry, I love that you qualified the problem. You're talking about why this problem, and then you added this concrete trends data. I love that. I thought it was really good. On the first objective, actually all of the objectives, you gave a very clear intro, and what I call bridging was excellent. So you said, take objective 2, you said, so we know who we're trying to help. We know that the problem is real. Now we need to ... And then you showed that slide. Exactly what we need to show this narrative. Like, what are these steps and how do we connect the dots for them as the listener? Because it's not obvious for people. So I think that was very well done. I loved your discovery. You talked about the highlight, the visual, the way you sort of visualized it, again, did a lot of work for you. This process was very clear to me. I love the sprinkling of stories. The great example of that UX designer with 20 years experience. Great story. So you tell that, someone's going to remember it in 10 years' time. Really concrete. I thought the MBA very clear and compelling, and that was backed up by the validation data. So that's not just my opinion, which ultimately doesn't matter. What does the market think? And you've got validation there. Blue Ocean, it was good. I loved the narrative, how it evolved your thinking. But you said one thing that's really was interesting. You said, as you can see, this is crowded. If I've never seen the Blue Ocean before, I haven't used it, it's not obvious to me that I've got no idea what I'm looking at. So that was the only time where you didn't say, what is this thing and why is it important in simple, clear terms at the beginning. So again, always assume somebody doesn't know what these things are. I thought your vision was excellent, very aspirational, as you said. Roadmap, crystal clear explanation. You really broke that down well. Lean Canvas, I think you were the best of the cohort on this specific topic because you were very clear about what it was and why it's important. And you zoomed in immediately, you put a business hat on, zoomed in immediately on revenue. You then said, well, that's balancing out with costs. So it was clear the relationship. You talked about unfair advantage, right? All these sort of, that strategic moat we talk about, that defense. If I'm a stakeholder or a business person, this is exactly what I want to hear. It's like, great, yeah, I get, users, awesome, there's something here. Tell me about this as a business proposition. You went straight, cut to the core of that very, very well. Give stakeholders a hell of a lot of confidence. So yeah, generally very, very good. I think just slowing down now and sort of zooming out. I think next steps, Monique, as I see it, and I'll get obviously your opinion on this. I think firstly, I was very pleasantly surprised with not just the case study, but you clear a very strong grasp of the concepts. I wasn't sure about that because obviously you've been mainly focused on interviews recently. So I was like, I felt where you're at, let's say the second half of the program. Excellent. When someone can explain a concept in simple terms, it shows a depth of understanding. So I thought that was great. All of the concepts today. I think one concrete step, I'd love to see you build and validate a prototype. There's something here. I think you're going to be very surprised by your own results. Going to give you a lot of confidence. So I'd say, you've got the time, do something. Could be small, could just be with 2-3 people. But hey, why not build something? I think you're going to be really surprised by the results there. Second thing, focus. I think you showed excellent focus with the job search. I want to make sure that you translate that now to like this process. And obviously when you go into this next role, focusing on, we break down these sequential steps, right? You're gonna have to do the same thing there. So keep focusing on focus. And then final thing, I think just looking ahead to the role, and we talked about this before you accepted it. Don't, just advice is I can see the danger of falling into the trap of just focusing on inclusivity and not actually leading by example with your product skills.
Mm-hmm.
So, remember you are a product person. I think the best thing you can do in terms of impact plus, how you develop yourself, lead by example, be the one that facilitates workshop, be the one that starts a conversation around product strategy, brings in these new concepts, these new ideas. Rather than putting yourself just in the inclusivity bucket, I think would be my main advice. You've got the grasp of the concepts, you can deliver results. So I think now it's just about putting the stuff into practice really when you start the new role. Any thoughts from your side and sort of next steps, things you want to focus on?
Well, yeah, like as we discussed earlier, definitely looking at leadership. So that topic, I mean, good for the next role, but also generally speaking, I think everybody should kind of dive into that topic. How?
Yeah, no, as I said, you've got all the ingredients. I think now it's just put yourself out there in the next role, and you go beyond just your domain. I think is my point, and you can be that go-to, product leader, person that sort of moves the conversations forward, makes decisions, etc. You've got everything from the the 8 weeks now just to put into practice. Awesome. Well, look, we'll wrap up there. Hopefully see you at Berlin meetup. I think it's going to be end of June. So hopefully see you there. If not, do let me know how you go. Definitely the first few weeks of the new role. Just reach out, update how it's going. I'm always curious. Plus, if you've got any challenges as well, reach out. I'm happy to sort of send some suggestions through as well then.
Glad.
But no, honestly, great. I think really good work balancing this with the job search plus getting through all the content. I think, so congrats for doing that. It's definitely not easy. Awesome. Well, look, thanks so much, Monique. And hopefully hopefully see you in Berlin in a couple of months as well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, Henry.
Thanks. Bye-bye.